Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and I'm here tonight at Brian's Drive-In Theater, and we're going to be exploring the mysteries of beach movies. Greetings and welcome. How are you?
I'm well tonight, Hercules. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm looking forward to learning about more about beach parties. We've had two shows on beach parties so far, I believe, so this will be like the jewel in the crown.
Well, I certainly hope so. The beach party genre was pretty short-lived. It really lasted only, oh gosh, I want to say, to be generous, 4 or 5 years. But it's had a lasting impact, especially with people like me who love these movies. And it's an interesting genre in that this is one that I actually credit American International Pictures, Nicholson and Arkoff,
Mhm.
with creating. Really more James Nicholson than Arkoff. He was more the idea man, and Arkoff was the business guy, the business end of things. And the first, well, when I first started the drive-in theater website in 1998, I waited until I had at least portions of two of the sections ready enough to post online. And one of them was the Many Faces of Hercules, and the other was the Beach Party section of the drive-in. So I'm a long-standing fan. I have a lot of memorabilia as well when it comes to Beach Party movies. I have a signed Beach Party, the very first movie, the Beach Party movie. I have a signed copy of it that Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon signed. I've had it for a long time, probably to 25, 30 years. I've got a lot of the press books, lobby cards, window cards, half sheets. I even have a couple of one sheets here and there in the overall genre. And when I say beach party, I actually mean these were more youth-oriented films in the early to mid 1960s. They kind of bridged the gap between what kids were watching in the late 1950s when they went to the theaters. Primarily, low budget or B horror movies, also produced by the same two men who produced most of the Beach Party films, Nicholson and Arkoff from AIP. Um, and it kind of bridged the gap between that and more serious films. Monster movies have sort of gone out of vogue for the most part by the early 1960s. It was a genre that they really flogged, and they were a lot of fun. Some of my favorite movies actually were those 1950s B science fiction and horror films, but they'd kind of lost their luster by the early 1960s, and Jim Nicholson was looking for kind of another direction to take with their films, and he also had some. It, it, not so much for Sam Arkoff, but Jim Nicholson wanted to do better pictures. He wanted to do more prestigious films. He wanted to be taken. He wanted them to be taken more seriously, and that kind of led AIP to do some experimentation with budgets. You eventually, and fairly early on, they transitioned over into using color stock when they were shooting films, and that was expensive for an independent studio like AIP was. And they wanted to show that color off. And what better way to do that than at the beach? And the beach party movies were sort of born that way. Also, it became known to them that Annette Funicello was going to be available, and that had been very popular in the 1950s. Although she wasn't perhaps the greatest singer on earth, she did have some hit singles in the late 50s and early 60s. I actually have some of them collected in my vinyl collection. Like I said, she wasn't the greatest singer in the world, but the songs are fun, and they were released on Disney's Buena Vista label. Well, but Annette Funicello was also like 21 years old and no longer a Mouseketeer, and
Here, get it.
wanted to move on to more mature roles. And Beach Party was the way she did it. Beach Party came out in the spring of 1963, or I'm sorry, I think it was the summer of 1963 actually, and it was shot in the winter of 1963, early winter to early spring. Um, I've actually been fortunate to have gotten to know a few people who were in these beach party movies, and they shed a lot of light on how they were produced. I got to know Aaron Kincaid very well. He's in several beach films from the 1960s, and he said that they often shot in let's say November, December, January, February, maybe even March, up until about spring break or so, because the beaches weren't very crowded in Southern California at that time of year. Sort of the off season. They also weren't always very warm at that time of year, so oftentimes the cast, was practically shivering because they had to be in bikinis, and it would be like 55, 60 degrees, or maybe not even that, depending on the day and the time of the day as well. So, although it looks sunny and 80 degrees, it wasn't necessarily when they were shooting these beach party films. But they wanted an uncluttered, uncrowded beach, and that's one of the ways that they got it, was to go there when nobody else in their right mind was going to go lay out on the beach. I think this was well, it would have been 4 or 5 years ago, or kind of as we were a year or two outside of when COVID started. Greg and I went to Hilton Head, South Carolina. We went down for spring break. I was still working at the university at the time. Well, I'm still working, but I just teach now. I actually had a job, back then. Um, and a couple of friends of ours who have a timeshare let us use their timeshare because one of them had gotten sick and they couldn't go, so we went instead. And they also work at the university as well. And we got chased down there from the Pittsburgh area all the way to South Carolina by this winter storm that was heading, it was coming in from the west, and we got down to South Carolina just as the storm hit, at home. Well, it got very cold in South Carolina, and we went out onto the beach, and the high that day was 48 degrees, although it was beautifully sunny. And there were a few people actually trying to get some sun, and the winds must have been like 15, 20 mile per hour winds. I felt really sorry for those kids. It looked miserable. But otherwise, we had a good time that week, but boy, it was cold. Oh, it's not a whole lot of fun at the beach when it's cold like that.
No,
If you've covered from head to toe when you walk out on it, it's not that much fun. But these movies are so much fun. And the first Beach Party movie features Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello, John Ashley, who I think we've talked about in the past. John Ashley was in a number of B movies in the 1950s, including some horror films, like Frankenstein's Daughter. It's a good title, John Ashley, and he did some other movies as well, some juvenile delinquent films that are a lot of fun. He was a really engaging guy, an actor, that is.
was Frankenstein's daughter a beach film? Because when I was typing beach films in, Frankenstein's daughter kept popping up, and by reading the description, it didn't seem like a beach film. However, Google
No,
was along there.
no, but I would say Google probably turned it up because John Ashley is in it, and he was in several Beach Party movies. I would say that would probably be the most likely. And Sandra Knight, who wasn't in Beach Party films, but she was in American International films, and at one point was her first husband was Jack Nicholson. So they met at AIP, at American International, or through American International films, that is. And these films, well, Beach Party also has Dorothy Malone and Robert Cummings. They're sort of the adults in it. And initially, the story is actually about them, and the Beach Party gang, Annette, Frankie, and such, just sort of fill in around the storyline. So it's sort of the essence of the first beach movie, which is Beach Party. It did very well at the box office. It looks good too. It's made very well. It's shot well. It's edited well. The music is produced pretty well. It's Beach Party music, especially in the AIP films, isn't always the greatest because it's not written. It's written by people who weren't necessarily pop music writers, but they tried pretty hard. Some of the other Beach Party films have like actual music from the '60s in it, and they're great. The Beach Boys, the Supremes. Some of them actually had some bands that would appear in the films themselves. You didn't get much of that with the AIP Beach Party movies because music's expensive, and they were spending their money on what you actually saw on screen as opposed to what you were hearing. But they also released film. They also released albums from some of the Beach Party films. I've got a copy of the Pajama Party soundtrack, for example. And these albums, they were actually released through Disney's Buena Vista label. And they sold reasonably well, better than you would think. Now, none of them really had ever had a top 10 hit or anything like that on them, but they helped promote the movie and they did sell pretty well. Now, AIP, kind of established the genre. They went on to make seven Beach Party films in total. They did Bikini Beach, which actually is probably my least favorite of the American International Beach Party movies. They also did Muscle Beach Party, which it has a great cast. It's got Paul Lynde. No, wait a minute. I'm wrong about that. Not Paul. It has Don Rickles, Peter Lupus from Mission Impossible. And it's got Luciana Paluzzi, who was an Italian actress who did a lot of American and European films in the 1960s and early 1970s as well. A very striking actress. She's also in Thunderball. If you're a James Bond fan, she is Fiona Volpe, I believe it's. I haven't seen Thunderball in a while, but I think that's her name. And she's not only does she bed Bond, but she's also his adversary. So it's kind of an interesting take for the mid 1960s. You see more of that in later Bond films, but she's a little harder edged than, let's say, Pussy Galore was in Goldfinger. But a good solid actress. And it's a fun movie to watch. It's kind of knowing her filmography really well. And I have a page devoted to Luciana Paluzzi at the drive-in. This movie's a little out of character. If you look through her filmography, you're like, whoa, what? That's interesting that she's in a beach party. But she is, and it's a good beach party movie. Jody McCrea also pops up in, I think, 6 of the 7 Beach Party movies. And he was the son of Western actor Joel McCrea. And Joel McCrea had been a very popular actor in the 1930s and 1940s. He did several big pictures in late 30s or early 40s before he kind of settled into Westerns. And his son, Jody, at the time that the beach party genre rolled out, he was close to 30 years old, and he'd been trying to establish a career in Hollywood for about 10 years, and nothing had really taken for him. And this is kind of where his career went. And it thrived for a while. And he played his character was either called Deadhead or Bonehead. He always played a character who was a few bricks shy of a full load intellectually, and for the most part, not so much in Pajama Party, but for the rest of the movies, he's just a big lunk. It's another one of his names in the films. Actually, a very bright man. but had to play the fool in these beach party films. As he progressed through his career and got into his mid 30s, he decided that acting really wasn't what he wanted to do. And he never had really been that comfortable as an actor and was more than willing to give it up, which he did around 1970 or so. He just quit and decided to become a rancher and lived out the rest of his days as one, interestingly. And I've got tons of these movies. I mean, I pulled out bunches of them. I've got Muscle Beach Party here, Bikini Beach. Like I said, not my favorite. It's okay. It's not my favorite movie. Paul Lynde is in it, and Linda Evans is in it. They're a lot of fun, but the story is really fragile. To tell you the truth, yeah, for the most part. Um, Probably the best thing for anybody who's interested in more about beach party films would be Tom Lisanti's book, which was Hollywood Surf and Beach Movies. This came out, 21, 22 years ago. I think it's 2004 or so. And it is, encyclopedic in terms of research. It has so much content regarding all of the beach party movies, and the foreword in it is written by him. Oh, sorry, him. That's her, him, which is Aaron Kincaid, and this is Chris Noel. And they were in a beach movie together, which was not an American International. But this is really the last word in beach party films. I believe it is still available. I think it has been reprinted at some point. You could always check Amazon for it. But as I said, it's a terrific book. Tom was really smart about it too. He was able to interview all of these people, well, I should say most of these people before age and time got them, which is terrific because now almost all of them are gone. Aaron, died, gosh, 15 years ago. Annette's been gone a long time. John Ashley died like 30 years ago. He was young when he passed away. Um, a lot of these people are dead now, and Tom was able to get in there and interview a bunch of them before they passed away, and that was a good thing. Really.
Yeah,
These
that is a good.
Oh yeah, you should do it sooner rather than later. That's a big mistake that I've made. Uh, Being busy with other things and not reaching out more to some people, and then that's it. You don't have another chance. Um, the popularity of these AIP beach movies is interesting in that this low budget independent studio kind of created a genre, and then you had the bigger studios wanting to cash in on it. So a bunch of imitators started popping up pretty quickly when it comes to beach party movies. Uh, Ride the Wild Surf comes to mind, and that's a movie that starred Tab Hunter, and it's Tab Hunter, Peter Brown from The Rifleman, not The Rifleman. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. He was on a Western, and I cannot remember the name of the Western right now. But it was not The Rifleman. That's Chuck Connors. But Ride the Wild Surf and Barbara Eden and Kelly it's a very talented, well-known cast. Much more so than some of the beach parties had. Fabian is in it as well. Susan Hart is not only in Ride the Wild Surf, but she pops up in American International movies as well.
It's
And
been
interestingly,
the genre. I remember there was a Saturday Night Live when Star Wars came out, where they were doing like a Princess Leia beach party. Sang the song Obi-Wan Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I want to wear a two-piece bathing suit. I want to find the guy who's really cute. And something, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's spooked elsewhere too. Is there anything of the genre echoing through society at the current time? Like sword and sorcery died out, but there's still sword and sorcery movies occasionally. And sword and
Hmm.
sand died out, but there's still sword and sandal movies, including Troy, which is a big budget one coming out very soon with stars in it. Are there any beach parties still happening?
Not 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 necessarily at the beach, but you can still see like bits and pieces of the beach party genre, especially when it comes into comedies and I want to say horror films too. Um, you can still see like I said, bits and pieces of it. It was well, I mean, all movie genres are of a time. And this one kind of relied on the innocence of youth. And unfortunately, that quickly fell by the wayside in the 1960s.
Yeah,
And you still see some of that innocence, especially in horror films like Friday the 13th, Camp Crystal Lake, uh, that sort of thing, where the kids are having sex and they're murdered by Mrs. Voorhees because they're evil children having sex instead of watching her son. You
that
know,
was
who,
a weird way of reinforcing morality. I remember even as a kid, I was amazed by the fact that they would choose that as a way of uh, getting kids not to have sex with each other.
well, but when you watch the beach party films, sex is there. Um, I mean, and it's I don't want to say it's discussed so much as talked around. Uh, but it is a topic in most of the films, with a couple of exceptions here and there. And it does pop up because I mean you've got people on the beach in bikinis, I guess, and they're supposed to be young, and that's when you are more likely to explore sexually. This also happened, this started in 1963. Birth control was, fairly widely available. I should say reliable birth control was more available by that time. And um, relationships didn't necessarily have to lead up to a marriage. And they're always, when you watch these films, you think, gosh, this teenager looks like to be about 30 years old because some of these people are older. Like Tab Hunter was into his 30s by the time he made Ride the Wild Surf. And he looks like he's in his early 30s. I mean, he's a handsome guy, but he doesn't look like he's 19. And they kind of play fast and loose with the age of the kids on the beach. It's definitely not high school. It's more likely college, but you don't really see, they don't really talk about, well, here and there they'll say that they're on break or something like that, but they don't really talk about where they've gone to school or anything like that. So the college aspect of it is kind of unimportant. Um, what is important is that you find the genre popping up over and over again in different kinds of movies. The one that I have on right now is actually called Ski Party, which is a winter take on Beach Party, and it was made by AIP, and it stars Frankie Avalon and Dwayne Hickman from Dobie Gillis, and Aaron Kincaid also has a big role in it as well. And it is the beach party, in Aspen, essentially. And there again, it's photographed very well. And in this one, this movie is sort of a takeoff on the Marilyn Monroe movie from the late 1950s with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, Some Like It Hot. In that Dwayne Hickman and Frankie Avalon play sort of a dual role. They are two guys who were trying to date Deborah Wally and Yvonne Craig. And the girls don't really want to have much to do with them. So they kind of invent female alter egos and they get dressed up in drag. And are able to spend more time with the girls and learn what it is that they're looking for in men, essentially. And it's a,
Today,
it's it's a goofy movie, but it's a lot of fun.
and today it would be very controversial if they made a movie like that without the prior history of such plot device movements. And that's
Well, this is true. Gender's seemingly a lot more fluid now than it was back then. It was very prescriptive back then as well. Not so much these days. It's a little more open now than it used to be. But the video started making beach party themed films as well. So everybody jumped in on the bandwagon, and some of this small independent folks also uh, took a stab at making these as well. Some of them ran into money problems and weren't released until a little later in the 1960s. One of those, probably the best known of that bunch, would be It's a Bikini World. Um, it's a Bikini World was directed by Stephanie Rothman, the, that I know of, the only woman who ever directed a beach movie, at least in the 1960s, that is. Um, and she did her career was primarily in exploitation. So she worked really low budget stuff. And she had sort of a different take on uh, gender roles and It's a Bikini World, which is really interesting. It's actually one of the first beach movies that I ever saw because it got sold into a syndication package probably a year or two after it hit theaters. And I saw it pop up a lot in those packages when I was a kid. So I've probably seen It's a Bikini World 50 times, maybe more than that. And it stars Tommy Kirk and Deborah Wally. And it's not made by a big studio or anything, but it's got some really interesting pieces to it. For one thing, the music in it is actually quite good. It has better music than the AIP films do, and it also has some animation sequences. It's very rough animation, but that still costs something. It couldn't be done in the camera, so that's an extra expense. The movie was shot in December of 1965 because they um, whenever they're trying to pad the movie out, they go down Hollywood Boulevard around Christmas in 1965, and there's all of these Christmas displays and things in the windows, and all along the boulevard there are tinsel trees and things like that, so it's all decorated for it. The movie didn't come out for another 18 months, however, because they ran out of money post production. So when it did come out, in the summer of 1967, nobody really cared because the genre was over by then. But it's a shame because to tell you the truth, it's probably my favorite beach party movie, and it's a really late one in terms of not only the production of it, but when it was released. But a lot of fun, good character actors, and It's a Bikini World. It also has a couple of scenes filmed in the haunted house, which was a discotheque in Hollywood, fairly short-lived from the early to late 1960s. It was called the haunted house because whenever you see any footage or pictures of it, there are cobwebs in the corner. The It sort of has a dance runway that's actually a dragon with its mouth open. Very, very cool looking place. It's long gone, sadly, but it's kind of rare to see footage of that discotheque because it was fairly short lived. It wasn't like the Whiskey a Go Go, which is still around. It was only there for a little while, but really neatly themed inside, and you're able to see it in some of the scenes of It's a Bikini World. And if you're a horror film fan, Sid Haig actually has an early role in It's a Bikini World. Jim Begg is in it, who was in all kinds of different films. He was a character actor. He passed away about 20 years ago. but pops up in a number of these. In Catalina, he's in Catalina Caper. He's in oh gosh, can't think of it. Village of the Giants, which is not really a beach party movie, but it's close. It's adjacent to Beach Party. There were so many of these, for like a 3 or 4 year period. So many of these got churned out that the genre kind of burned itself out. But also, times were changing. Movies were getting grittier. This is kind of the end of the Hays Code. So, although the themes are a little more mature than they would have been in the 1950s, they're still pretty squeaky clean. Not a whole. There's certainly no drug use or anything like that going on in these films. And just a couple of years later, they were just seen so old-fashioned and so passé because when the MPAA rating system came out in 1968, that meant that you could show so much more than you'd been showing before, and it made these films look very old-fashioned, really. So it's just a matter of circumstance, and that's really what killed the genre, more than anything else.
I remember when during the age of mom and pop or grandma and grandpa VHS movie stores, I remember coming
My
across
youth.
classics as Geek Maggot Bingo, which I guess was a parody of Beach Party Bingo. I don't remember if I did rent it because the title was odd. Um, but I never really got into the films when they were coming out. I love the parodies of them, and I love the horror movie aspect of them. And as an exercise, I looked for weird beach party films, and I posted some today on my page to advertise your show. And I became aware how many there were that I would really love to watch, like Monster Beach Party and Alien Beach Party. And so that's what I'll be doing all this week in honor of your show today.
Well, actually, horror was injected into the genre very early on. And here's evidence of that, the horror of Party Beach.
I was
um,
watching it earlier today,
and you've probably seen this film, certainly, right?
years ago, but now I'm watching it again with new fresh eyes.
Ah, very good. This is a Blu-ray version that came out maybe I want to say late last year, probably. And it's kind of stunning to see it because it's been I mean, these are from it's been restored, I guess I should say. The print of it was always pretty good, but it actually does take place on a beach, which is great. And like I said, a very early, maybe the earliest entry of a beach party slash horror film. Now it's done in earnest, and it was directed by a guy who only made really a few movies, Del Tenney. But Del Tenney was not so much. He was an actor, not a movie, not a filmmaker, at least initially. But saw a way to make some movies and make some money. And Horror Party Beach was one of these. His films mostly did very well at the box office, and they were shot cheaply. They were ballyhooed pretty effectively, and they are just gems. If you ask me, I love this movie, and this is one I've probably seen 50 or more times. I've seen it a lot over the years. And it's a fun movie. It doesn't really star anyone. John Scott is the star in it. And he had a little bit of a career if you look him up on IMDb. And weirdly, his sister, who was billed as Alice Lyon, is was cast as his love interest, which is really strange. And they have the first time I watched this was like these two have absolutely no chemistry, and thankfully, it makes sense. Once you figure out that these two were brother and sister. Uh, but knowing that is pretty wild. Um,
Yeah.
and interestingly, his sister had gone to school with Jacqueline Kennedy, and she's clearly in her 30s, when she's making this movie, and she's supposed to be young and going to college parties and things. And it's like, oh, she's clearly not that age, but it's still a fun movie to watch. And it's not. There's nothing scary about it, really. It tries to be, frightening, and the monster in it is. It would have been more frightening if the monster had turned out a little bit better. But the
To the Black Lagoon. Well, it clearly was inspired by the creature of the Black Lagoon. It
but
seems
not enough.
more cartoonist side.
And but Horror Party Beach is, like I said, an early entry into all of that. And there's one other one as well. And it's the Beach Girls and the Monster. I run this one about once a year or so on the drive-in. It was made by John Hall, who
That's that's the one I saw. I'm sorry, not the other one. Beach
oh
Girl.
oh and this movie is fun. This movie is terrible. It is bad. I know it's bad. Now I enjoy it because it's bad, but it can be kind of a trial to get through. To tell you the truth, it's mercifully short, however. And John Hall, who was in all of those Technicolor adventures in the early 1990s, Montez, made this film, and he also acts in it. And it doesn't have a bad cast. I mean, Sue Casey is in it, and she was a character actress in movies for 50 or more years. Um, she's other than John Hall, she's probably the biggest name in it. She's also in Catalina Caper, which is not a beach party movie because it takes place on Catalina Island, but it's in the hunt. Uh, and it's kind of a fun movie too. Catalina Caper is not a horror film, actually. It's I want to say a light mystery and comedy and musical as well. A lot of it takes place on the boat over to going over to Catalina Island, and Little Richard does a number in it. Carol Connors does a number. She was primarily a songwriter, so it's kind of interesting to see her singing in a film. But I think she's still around now that I think about it. But it stars Tommy Kirk. He is the lead in it, and Del Moore is in it, who was a character actor in the 50s and 60s. Sue Casey again is in it. Jim Begg, Robert Donner, Lyle Wagner. It's one of his earlier films. He's actually in it too. And Catalina Caper, which I also run about once a year or so. That's primarily through the Tommy Kirk page. It's a fun movie to watch. You can tell that Tommy Kirk's heart probably wasn't in the movie that much. He doesn't seem to be having that great of a time. But game he was game. He got through it. He made several beach party films, starting with Pajama Party, which is an AIP movie. Tommy Kirk's story is really heartbreaking, if you think about it. He was from a poor family from Kentucky. They moved to Los Angeles. He started getting acting roles as a child. He was a very good child actor. He got hired by Walt Disney. Disney worked him to death too. I mean, he made stuff at the time he was like 12 years old, for Disney, into the 1960s, and he got caught having sex with an underage boy. I think the boy was maybe 15, 16 years old. And Tommy Kirk at the time would have been probably like 21. He was an adult, 21 or 22. And he was summarily fired by Disney, although he still had a relationship here and there with Disney. He probably could have repaired it, but he developed some drug and alcohol problems, and that's really seemed to be, in talking with him, that seemed to be the big issue with his career. He didn't think that being gay had nearly the impact on his career, even back then, that his substance problems had. And I would say that's probably true. In some of his films, you can see that he might he might have been imbibing. He might have been indulging in something or other. I don't want to put words in his mouth, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's in several of these films, however. He's not only is he in Pajama Party, he's in Village of the Giants, Catalina Caper, It's a Bikini World. He did several of these films, and he's a fixture in some of the later ones as well. Frankie Avalon was sort of the uh, all-American boy in the first few American International Beach Party films. And Frankie Avalon had been a pretty big name in the late 1950s and early 1960s. His records had sold pretty well. He had a number of hits. Venus, probably the most popular, and probably with the best. I think it went to number one, so it would have been his best chart performance. But he was trying to make the transition to being an actor, and he didn't do bad for himself. He got pretty close, but he left the genre around the time of its peak in 1965, and then tried to go on to bigger and better pictures. He gave it his best shot. It didn't necessarily work out for him. He did go back to music eventually, and that's what he does now primarily. He's still singing, which I think is fantastic. He tours with Fabian, and they were touring with Bobby Rydell, but Bobby Rydell passed away a few years back. The three of them together were sort of a touring together. And they've got somebody to tour with them again, but I cannot for the life of me remember who it is. It's somebody a bit younger. Um, but yeah, but Frankie Avalon, sort of the first to graduate, I guess I should say, from the Beach Party films. And Annette also, pieced out of the Beach Party films after a while too, but for a different reason. In 1965, Annette Funicello married her agent, Jack Gallardi, who was also the agents for a lot of the people in Beach Party films. He was Aaron Kincaid's agent for a while, too, and a number of the other actors in them. She married him, and they started having a family. So Annette is actually visibly pregnant in one of the Beach Party movies that she's in. To tell you the truth, it's the last Beach Party movie that she's in, called How to Stuff a Wild Bikini. And you can see from some shots, they try to disguise it as much as they can, but from some shots, you can see that she's probably 5 or 6 months along. I mean, she's not too not too far. Well, she's fairly far into her pregnancy, I guess I should say. Um, so that put her career, unfortunately, on the back burner. I got to say, anytime I see a Annette Funicello film, she has charisma on screen. She's a fun screen presence. It's impossible to hate her. Um, like I said, not the best singer on earth, not the best actress on earth, but a welcome actress in any film I've ever seen her.
It's a shame that some people's path takes them where they want to try something bigger and better, and they wind up writing themselves out of the field of acting or whatever other performing art happened where they initially got to through the attention. I remember that story coming up, like for instance, Tasha Yar on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mm.
She wanted to go beyond being someone in Star Trek. And all you hear about that she's done since then, well, she's been in several movies and TV shows, is her Star Trek stuff that she did. So that lives on in people's memory. So I always find that bad when somebody's trying to transcend and everyone keeps writing them back memories of what they did before.
But even if they don't make it, you've got to try. You know,
Yes.
if you want it, some people, well, going back to the Peplum films, some of them, like Mark Forrest, were more than happy just to say, "Okay, genre's over. I'm going to go do something else." And others wanted to hang with it. Like Richard Harrison, Gordon Mitchell, certainly. They wanted to keep on going, and you have to take a swing at it if you want it that badly. And if you don't make it, and most people don't, but if you don't make it, hey, at least you gave it your best shot. That's infinitely preferable to wanting it and then not doing anything,
That's
not
very true.
trying to break out of it. It doesn't always work well for your career, unfortunately. I think Cab Hunter would probably agree with me on that one. But you got to try.
Tell me, are there any genres that you didn't initially conceive of being part of the drive-in that you've added later on, or that you're considering adding on now?
The one that I never was able to pull together, sadly, was one of the ones that I kind of cut my teeth on as a kid, and that was blaxploitation.
I love
Uh, I I didn't realize it at the time, but when I was a kid, we saw a lot of those films. We saw Blackula, which actually is a good.
a
I,
great title. Yeah,
it is a good horror film, and I hate to I hate to take anything away from it by saying that it was blaxploitation, because it's a good movie and it's a good horror film, and the performances in it are good. But it is blaxploitation. I love Pam Grier films, especially the ones from the '70s. I mean, she's amazing. Um, we Fred Williamson movies. I saw a number of those. Uh, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, Sidney Poitier. I mean, a lot of people moved through blaxploitation films in the '70s, and they were very popular when I was a kid, and we went to see them.
yeah.
Um,
So, and some of them were hard to find until recently, like Blackenstein. I saw that as a kid, and it,
oh, Blackenstein is so bad. I love it, but it is
not
horrible.
so bad that it was good. Uh, and there were some other ones I hadn't seen since I was a kid that I saw recently on uh, YouTube or Tubi or someplace else.
Oh, Blackenstein. Oh boy, that's painful. And to tell you the truth, it's the script, because they're quality actors in it. It's not shot very well. But there's some talent in it. It's just not directed very. It's not directed. It's a screen, that's for sure. But I like the movie. That's not my saying that it's horrible doesn't mean that I would never watch it, because I do have a copy of it, and I think it was from an old VHS. Now that I think about it, we may have a better copy of it now. I'm not sure, but I know we do have a copy. So that, for me, that's one of the big ones. I also wanted to do a biker. There were a lot of biker movies in the late '60s and early 1970s. Don Stroud, Joe Namath did CC and Company, which I remember seeing at the drive-in when I was a kid. Um, Ross Hagen did a number of those. I wanted to do. I don't have a Ross Hagen page, but I did want to do one. So that's another genre that I never was able to get off the ground. I just couldn't find enough material really for it, especially with Ross Hagen. And there are some subgenre of horror and sci-fi that I would like to have done more with. I really haven't added any pages to the drive-in since about 2017 or so. I've toyed with the idea of adding some more, and it may happen yet, but I haven't added anything for a long time.
Thank you for answering that. I was wondering about that. And I figured, let me ask.
Now, I will say this: my to tell you the truth, my big all-time favorite genres are well represented at the drive-in. I love horror films, science fiction, beach party films, obviously, well, hopefully for the night. Um, but I'm also a big film noir buff. I love crime dramas, especially the ones in the 40s and 50s. The ones that were shot well, the Warner Brothers films, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, To Have and Have Not, I think is just beautifully shot. The Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart um, and Peter Lorre, I think is a wonderful film, and I really enjoy those. And there were some smaller budgeted uh, film noir thrillers like Detour with um, Tom Neal, and it's a PRC movie, Producers Releasing Corporation, and PRC was the bottom of the barrel in the 1940s. They were actually a kind of a rung below Monogram, but it's a fantastic film and public domain as well. I run that one about once a year, whenever it's Tom Neal's birthday. Or maybe it could. I might run it when it's Ann Savage's birthday because she's the female lead in it, and she's great, she's terrific in the movie. And I haven't done as much with serials as I would like. I'm a big serial fan. The movie serials that were out primarily from the 1920s through the 1950s, I like a lot of those, especially when some of the later ones started going sci-fi. Um,
Flash
you know,
Gordon, Paul
Flash,
Jones.
the Flash Gordon ones are a lot of fun. The ones with Buster Crabbe, Buck Rogers, I think is pretty good. Captain Marvel with Tom Tyler, I
Mhm.
think pretty well done. And they're done with tiny budgets, especially Tom Tyler, Captain Marvel. But they are as good as anything that was produced during the time. And I love the fact that the running times on them, if you put them all together, now a lot of it is repeated footage over and over again, as you move through the serial. But even at that, some serials are over 5 hours long if you watch them end to end.
Rocky Jones taught me a good trick when I had my TV show, because my TV show was fringe, made made with wishes and blue dream that I made. But they taught me a very valuable technique. I used to take segments from the show and weave them into like the movie that came out. So originally it aired in expanded versions on the show, and then we took them and we re-edited them and added new footage, and we made the movie that we made. And I learned that from Rocky Jones because they used to do the same thing. They used to do the serials, and then from what happened in the serial, they re-edited it and put it together more cohesively to make a movie, and then they would release a movie that they showed in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much what I did, and it worked.
They did that with several of the serials when they released them to television in the 1950s to make them more digestible. They would
Uh,
do sort of an edited or abridged version where they would take 12 chapters and boil them down to about 75, 80 minutes, something like that. They did that a lot in the 50s. And depending on the sequels too. I mean, they did break some of those out into, I want to say, like half hour um, with commercials. They could do some of those as half hour shows in the 1950s as well. And like I said, I would like to have done more with that section, the drive-in too. Some of them I think are pretty well fleshed out. The Hercules, there are a couple of people missing from the many faces of Hercules. Not an oversight. I just didn't have as much information as I want. And although it seems pretty well fleshed people that I would like to add in, Mimo Palmara would be one I would like to add in. I would like to add in some of the actresses that you see in a lot of Peplum films as well, like Helga Linnea, for example. I would like to you explore, make it a little more international because I loved a lot of the European horror films from the 50s and 60s. I'm a huge Italian horror film fan, but I like a lot of French. The French films are usually more psychological in nature and require a lot more of your attention. Whereas the Italian films are really bloody and violent. They don't wait for you to pay attention; they just sort of grab it from you. Um, and I would like to have explored more of those actors that you see popping up in those films. I have some, at the drive-in, but not as much as I
If
would
you
like.
look at shows and things that you would like to grind and then put the shows up there, something will be there. You could build upon later on to convenience.
Yeah, I like Giallo films a lot. Those are the Italian horror slash mystery. Uh, 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 well, they were actually paperbacks once upon a time that kind of morphed into a film genre, and they're more than just horror films. There's an element of mystery in them as well. Oftentimes, they're sort of a marriage between film noir and horror, which is a very effective combination of two genres. I like it when horror overlays any genre, quite honestly, whether it's a romantic comedy or whatever. If it's got a horror element to it, I'll probably watch it.
You used to watching Spider-Man Noir with Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man.
I have not seen that yet, but it does sound terrific. Now that's on Apple, right? Apple TV.
It's on Prime, I think.
Oh,
Amazon.
it's Prime. Okay, okay.
It might be put on other things as well, but Tina and I watched it. We were pleasantly surprised by how well it turned out. How
I
much
I love Nicolas Cage. Now he's been in everything, good, bad, in between. But he's not bad. I mean, he's always fantastic. Now, the movie, everything else around him might be crap, but he's always good. And some of his movies for me really stand out. Renfield, he is
he was a
awesome.
yeah, he was one of the best Draculas I've seen.
He is amazing in it. And I liked Longlegs a lot, which Greg did not like Longlegs as much as I did. He was looking for. I just kind of enjoyed it for what it was. He was looking for some greater meaning. Um, but yeah, Nicolas Cage is on, for me. I really like him. I've liked everything of his that I've seen. I've liked him in everything I've seen. I haven't liked every one of his movies, but I've liked him in all of his movies.
If you can, because we need to wrap up now. It's after our time. But if you can get me a list of things you'd like to do shows on, we can start planning some specials. And it could be, they're going to be Brian's Driving Theater, so it doesn't have to be related to any of the genres that they usually cover. But if you want to do that and then just link to the episode on your page, you can no longer say that something you wanted there isn't there. We can put it there as a placeholder until you do something else with it.
That's a really good idea. I will work on that. And I need to do some tweaking on the website anyway, and add it that would be a great addition to it. Be a great way to add content.
Thank you again, Brian, as always, for everything. You are a genius in the realm of film and in many other realms of education. And I thank you for being on the show and for sharing your wisdom with us. How can people find you, find the drive-in, experience the movies that you change daily, and become part of your world?
Go to briansdrive-in-theater.com. There is a new movie of the day every day. I do try to theme those movies as much as I can. If I have a birthday at the drive-in, and if that person has something public domain available for me to air, I will show it. During the Christmas season, I show Christmas movies, Halloween, horror films, obviously. And summer, well, I can't show very many beach party movies because there aren't very many of those in public domain, unfortunately. The one that really is would be The Beach Girls and the Monster, the John Hall movie, which is terrible, but it's a fun film. If you want to interact with me on social media, I'm just down to Facebook these days, so you can run a search for Brian's Drive-In Theater, and I will pop up.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of the week, and I look forward to our next conversation. Be well, my friend.
Okay, take care, Hercules. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.